Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to America, and this is going to be one of my kind of mini milestone reviews if you like. So this is review number 1300, and as I always do with these videos, I just want to thank you guys, the viewers, for all the support that you've shown the channel over the last, about 5 years or so it is now. There's 1800 of you subscribed to the channel, there's countless other people, watch it fairly regularly. So from the bottom of my heart, whether you've, liked, subscribed, shared, commented, sent me beer, shown me around somewhere when I've been out and about, I just want to say a huge thank you. It really is quite cool to see something that you started as a hobby become, grow and become quite popular. And, I've met some great people through doing it. I've met the other guys who do beer videos and things like that. I have met some people who watch the channel and, various brewers and things like that. That's what craft beer is all about. It is all about community and, local produce and all of these kind of things. So if you want to start up your own beer channel, I really do recommend that you do it, because, it has been great fun over the last couple of years. So it's, I'm never going to stop doing this. It's brilliant, and I've got a really special beer to kind of celebrate this kind of 1300th review. So for this one, we're going to return it to Grand Rapids over in Michigan in America, which some of you might know is home to one of the more well-known American craft breweries, and we've got one of their more special beers to have a look at today. So for this one, we're going to return to Founders Brewing Company, and we're having a taste of the Canadian Breakfast Stout. So this one apparently has the same kind of base beer, if you like, as the Kentucky Breakfast Stout. You saw me review that a little while ago, but this one comes in at 11.7%. They're saying that it's brewed with chocolate and coffee, and it's aged in maple syrup bourbon barrels. I have tasted this beer before actually. I had a little taste of one that Paul Romeli from PA Brew News, he bought one of the big American bomber bottles over, and we had a taste of that in Manchester. But we'd actually drank quite a few beers and tasted quite a few beers, so you don't appreciate it in the same way when you're doing a bottle share and stuff. So I really am looking forward to having a taste of this one and thinking about it a little bit more on the channel for you guys. So hopefully you enjoy my take on this beer, and I'm certainly looking forward to it. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, of course, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Founders before. No doubt there will be some more in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the American beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Founders Brewing Company then. So as I've told you before, the brewery was originally founded back in 1997 as the Canal Street Brewing Company. They're based in Grand Rapids in Michigan, and the two founders were Mike Stevens and David Engbers. The two, of course, were home brewing enthusiasts, and they'd only recently graduated from university at the time that they founded the brewery. But they had both, they both had quite steady jobs, but they decided that they wanted to follow their passion. They quit their jobs, took out hefty bank loans, drew up a business plan, and then started the brewery. So in the 1800s, apparently there had been a lot of breweries operating in the Canal Street area of Grand Rapids, but this area apparently is now known as Monroe Avenue, and the original labels on the Canal Street Brewing Company beers were old black and white pictures of this Canal Street area that had Founders on the top of them, that had the word Founders above it, and this was how the brewery became known eventually as Founders Brewing Company. So since the mid-2000s, the brewery has grown substantially. They now brew over 340,000 barrels of beer per year, and their sales market is constantly growing. They're probably one of the most recognisable American craft beer brands throughout the world. You've got Sierra Nevada, Founders, Anchor, there's a good few of them starting to get out there now, but Founders are probably one of the more recognisable ones when it comes to Europeans at least, and probably to places like Australia and Japan and things like that as well. But they have their tap room which overlooks the brewing facilities at the brewery, and customers can come in and get a view of them actually brewing all of these beers. But they also throw an annual festival which is called the Founders Fest in the streets in front of the brewery, so they get a lot of local bands in, they've got a lot of local food, and of course they've got various different beers that they produce. you can actually try some really experimental stuff with Founders as well. They are a fairly big production facility these days, but they do kind of stick to their roots, and they're always experimenting with different stuff. So you really can try some great experimental beers from Founders, and eventually they do always make it to the bottling if they prove to be really quite good. And I think that's how they started out with the Kentucky Breakfast Stout and things like that, and even the Canadian Breakfast Stout as well. So a really, really interesting brewery, this one of the more established American craft breweries, and like I say, a very, very recognisable company. But even so, it is quite difficult to get a hold of some of these rarer beers over here in Europe, so I'm really glad that I was able to get a hold of this one. Thank you to the guys at Hop Knocker for keeping this one aside for me. It's really, really muchly appreciated. I'll put their Facebook page in the video description for you below, so if you're watching from the Durham area, you can go and check them out. They've got a great selection of stuff up there. But yeah, let's have a little look at this beer then. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one then before we open up. There you can see there's the Canadian Mountie on his horse there. Of course, Canada very, very famous for that. You can see the Founders Brewing Company label on the top there, and that is also on the bottle cap. So on the back here it says, CBS was born when we stumbled upon some bourbon barrels that had previously housed maple syrup. We opted to put the same base beer as KBS, an imperialised version of breakfast stout, in the maple barrels, and after one taste we knew we had something special. Rich maple syrup, roasted coffee and velvety chocolate melt together in what can only be described as a transcendental drinking experience. You know, I'm not sure about that word right enough. You know, brain thinks in Swedish these days, so that is a little bit different, but yeah, so that's quite an interesting way to describe it. But yeah, an 11% Imperial Stout, much the same as the Kentucky Breakfast Stout, but aged in slightly different barrels, so we'll see how we get on with this one. So let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. So yeah, nice smoky opening, and we'll get this guy out and into the glass. Really looking forward to this. You can smell some of that lovely chocolate coming out of the beer already. There's the last little bit to get some head on it. So yeah, that looks really, really nice. So as you can see, and as you would expect from an Imperial Stout, this guy is poured a nice dark ebony rosewood colour. You can smell that lovely chocolate and caramel just kind of coming out of this beer already. So there you can see in the camera, there's a solid, I'd say, finger and a half of a dark beige tan head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and quite a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. There's a little bit of a ruby edge to the beer, but yeah, no, overall definitely a nice black ebony rosewood colour. You wouldn't expect anything less, or anything else rather, from an Imperial Stout. And you can, you know, if you just look at how oily this beer is, 11.7%, you know, that is to be expected. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. Yeah. So straight away with this one, if you take it in quite deeply, the coffee is really noticeable. To me it smells like quite an earthy coffee. I don't profess to be an expert in different coffees, but to me it comes across as quite an earthy one. There's maybe a little bit of kind of aromaticity or something to that coffee as well, but it really strikes me as more of a smooth, kind of earthy type coffee rather than anything. But there's a lot of sweet chocolate in there. The coffee really is the thing that's kind of pushing its way out on this one though. But yeah, sweet chocolate in there. You can smell a lot of brown sugar. There's a sort of darker treacle kind of note coming out of this one. It's quite a toasted brown sugar actually, I would say. Yeah, a lot of brown sugar in this one. Definitely darker treacle. But you can actually smell a little bit of that maple syrup. I think there's an element of a kind of oaky vanilla note to this beer as well. I think, yeah, a bit of earthiness from the hops. You definitely can get a wee bit of that earthy quality from the hops coming out. There's a little touch of red fruit in there as well. Maybe like some raisins or something like that, but the red fruit really isn't prominent. This beer is all about the big kind of malty qualities, which, you know, again from an Imperial Stout is what you'd expect. When you go a little bit further away from it, when you settle back, it does appear a little bit more sweeter, but when you really go into it and shake up the aroma and things like that, you really get into it, that's when you get the kind of coffee-ish, earthy type flavours out of it. That's really when things kind of get going. But yeah, it's an interesting beer, this one. As I always say, just take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it, because, you know, this one is a pretty special beer. I actually remember it being smelling a little bit sweeter than it does in this one, so I don't know if there's a little bit of a difference between the big bomber that we had with Paul and the little 330s that they export. Or I think it's 360 or 370 that in the American ones, you know, the measures are a little bit different, of course. But yeah, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of that beer before you get stuck into it. But let's have a taste of this one then. So this is review number 1300, the Canadian Breakfast Stout from Founders Brewing Company over in Grand Rapids in Michigan. Once again, thank you for all your support over the last 5 years or so. Let's get stuck into this beer. So yeah, let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål. Yeah, straight away you'll see this is a pretty special beer. It's just got it's got a pretty much perfect balance between the kind of roasty coffee side of things and the sweeter sides of the malt. Yeah. It's just a lovely beer. If you get the chance to try this, honestly, just have a go at it. It's something else, to be quite honest with you. I mean, the Kentucky Breakfast Stout, you know, with that one, it's a good beer, and I'd say it was a really good beer, but I definitely prefer this one out of the two. I will say that straight up. I definitely prefer the Canadian Breakfast Stout. Yeah, this one, the way that the maple syrup's kind of come out in this one, and just making the beer lean a little bit more towards the sweet side of things, is really, really quite cool. So yeah, with this one, you can feel a bit of a roasted black malt backbone there. That just blankets the middle of your tongue. On top of that, you start to get the nice smoothness from the kind of coffee flavours. There's a lot of brown sugar to this one. It's got a kind of sweet treacle quality to this beer. That kind of blankets the middle of your palate as well. And there's definitely some kind of sweet chocolatey elements to the beer too, which is nice. But yeah, that's it really is just a beautiful beer, this one. So, you know, have a go at it for yourself. I just love how everything goes together in this one. There's definitely a little bit of a sort of oaky vanilla flavour that starts to push its way out of this beer as you progress further into the aftertaste. The maple syrup, I think, starts to come out a little bit towards the front of the palate. Really, as you move towards the front of the tongue, that's when you can get that almost caramel wafery flavour, if you like, that comes out of the maple syrup. I don't have maple syrup all that often, but it really, the flavour to me is quite similar to kind of caramel wafer. That's probably a better thing for Scottish people and Swedish people, I guess, to kind of relate it to. Not sure how often the Swedish people have caramel wafer and things like that right enough, but that's the flavour that maple syrup really reminds me of. We don't eat pancakes and stuff all that much, of course, but it's a lovely, lovely kind of flavour to this beer. But yeah, take a little bit of time and just enjoy the flavour of this beer. It really, I could sit and just sip on this for hours, you know, but at 11.7%, it is quite a dangerous one. In terms of the hoppy characteristics of this beer then, back corners of the palate, of course, you've got quite a little bit of earthiness. The earthiness does have a little bit of bitterness there, but as you progress along the front sides of your tongue, it really does just kind of smooth out. Then round the very front curve of the palate, there is a little touch of grassiness there, but it really is quite an earthy beer in terms of the hops, this one. And then just behind the front curve of the palate, that's where you get that little oily bubble where some of those fruity, juicy esters start to come out of it. And for me, it's quite an interesting one, this. The fruity character is really nice. It definitely leans towards, I think, the kind of, I would say maybe the figgy side of things. Yeah, it's got this really rich, it's almost, this beer actually almost has a little bit of a kind of rum cakey quality to it in some ways. But yeah, the fruity character in this one is not really, it's not really too sharp, if you like. It's mainly a kind of figgy, kind of candied, almost medicinal sort of fruity quality that comes out of this one. It almost it almost reminds me of, it's not quite cowpaw, but it's a really nice dark. It's not quite cherry. I'm not sure how to put my finger on the fruity quality that comes out of this beer. I don't know if it's maybe prunes or something like that. Maybe prunes is a good way to kind of describe the flavour of this beer. I think that's you know, I think that's a good way to describe it. The fruity character on this one certainly doesn't have the sharpness of raisins or plums or something like that. I think it's more a kind of prune flavour that kind of comes out of this beer, but it's got a bit of a rum cakey quality to it as well. But you know, it really is just a lovely, lovely beer. If you get the chance to try this one, have a go at it. It's quite rare, I think, to find it. So I got very lucky with the guys at Hop Knocker for this one. And it is just, you know, it's just absolutely lovely. And I'm really glad that I got to review this beer for number 1300. Have a go at it for yourself. In terms of the mouthfeel then, definitely a full-bodied beer. Carbonation is very smooth. The mouthfeel, of course, leans towards the oily side of things. The hoppy quality to this beer, there's a little touch of bitterness in the back. But overall, the hoppy side of the beer is quite smooth. The malt base has a very good balance between kind of bitterness and sweetness, I would say. And there is a little touch of that nice juicy fruity quality to it as well. But overall, it's just a top class beer. So if you get the chance to try this one, I've repeated it quite a few times, but have a go at it for yourself. It's been really cool to be able to have a taste of this one on the channel for you. If it came down to this one versus KBS, personally I would go with this beer. I do like that slightly sweeter flavour that this one has, but yeah, it's just it's an awesome beer. Have a go at it for yourself. So yeah, let's leave it at that then. So this was the Canadian Breakfast Stout from Founders Brewing Company over in Grand Rapids in Michigan. It was really cool to do this for my 1300th review. As always, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Founders Brewing Company as well, and do of course get in touch and give me some suggestions for beer. Check out all my social media and these kind of things. But once again, thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. The Canadian Breakfast Stout from Founders Brewing Company over in Grand Rapids in Michigan. Until the next time, it's Landry just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Skål.